I am Moses, and this is my story. The bush should have burned to ash within moments. I had seen enough fires in this wilderness to know that. Dry branches crackled, desert winds fed the flames, and before long nothing remained but blackened twigs scattered across the ground. Yet this fire refused to consume what it touched. I stood frozen on the rocky slope of Horeb, my shepherd's staff gripped tightly in my hand, while my flock wandered behind me. Every instinct told me to turn away. Every step I took toward that strange fire felt as though it carried me farther from the ordinary life I had known for 40 years, and closer to something I could neither understand nor escape. When I first came to this wilderness, I came with nothing except fear. The desert has a way of stripping a man of his pride. The hot wind does not care whether you once lived in a palace or slept beneath the stars. The sharp rocks do not move because your feet once walked polished floors. Hunger does not remember titles. Thirst does not honor former greatness. I had once believed I was destined for something extraordinary. Now I spent my days leading sheep. Each morning began the same way. Before dawn painted the eastern sky with streaks of pale orange, I gathered the flock belonging to my father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. Their wool carried the scent of dust and earth. The bells tied around a few of the older sheep chimed softly as they walked. My sandals scraped against rough stone, while cool morning air quickly surrendered to the relentless heat of the sun. The wilderness became my companion. I learned where water could still be found after months without rain. I knew which valleys held enough grass to feed hungry animals. I watched hawks circle overhead and listened for the distant howl of wolves after sunset. 40 years can make almost any place feel like home. Yet there were days when memories returned without warning. The sound of water flowing through a narrow stream reminded me of the Nile. The gleam of sunlight on polished stone reminded me of Egyptian palaces. I could still remember fine linen against my skin instead of rough wool. I remembered servants who anticipated every need before I spoke. I remembered halls filled with carved pillars, painted walls, and the smell of incense drifting through royal chambers. I had been raised as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. From infancy, I was surrounded by wealth and power. Yet something inside me never allowed me to forget who I truly was. I was born a Hebrew. Though I grew up among Egyptians, my heart was always drawn toward my own people. I watched them labor beneath heavy burdens. I saw backs bent beneath bricks and mud. I heard the crack of whips and the cries of exhausted men. One day, anger overcame wisdom. I saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. Looking around to make certain no one was watching, I struck the Egyptian down and buried his body in the sand. For one brief moment, I believed I had defended my people. Instead, I destroyed the life I had known. The next day, 2 Hebrews argued with one another. When I tried to stop them, one turned toward me with words that pierced deeper than any sword. "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" My secret had become known. Soon Pharaoh himself sought my life. So I ran. The desert that now felt familiar had once seemed endless. I crossed dry valleys beneath a blazing sun, uncertain whether each day would be my last. My feet blistered, my lips cracked from thirst. The food I carried disappeared quickly. Then, by God's unseen mercy, I reached Midian. There I met women drawing water for their father's flock. Shepherds drove them away, but I could not stand by and watch injustice again. This time I defended them without violence. I watered their sheep, and through that simple act, my life changed. Their father welcomed me. In time, I married his daughter, Zipporah. Our son was born, and I named him Gershom because I felt like a stranger in a foreign land. Years passed quietly. The fire of youthful ambition faded. The dreams of changing nations disappeared beneath ordinary responsibilities. Sheep needed grazing every day. Wells needed finding. Seasons changed. Children grew. Sometimes I wondered whether Egypt had forgotten me. Sometimes I wondered whether God had. Then came the day everything changed. I had led the flock farther than usual toward Horeb, the mountain of God. The ground became steeper. Jagged rocks rose around narrow paths. The air felt strangely still. Then I saw it. A bush burned with brilliant flame. Orange and gold danced across every branch. Heat shimmered around it. Yet the leaves remained green. The branches did not collapse. No smoke blackened the wood. I stopped walking. My sheep continued grazing behind me, unaware that anything unusual had happened. I stared for several moments before speaking to myself. I will turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. As I stepped closer, something happened that no words can fully describe. The fire was no ordinary fire. A voice came from the midst of the flame. "Moses! Moses!" No one had spoken my name like that before. It was not merely recognition, it was authority. It was as though the one speaking had known me before my first breath. My mouth became dry. My heart pounded against my chest. I answered with trembling words, "Here am I." Then the voice spoke again. "Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground." Without hesitation, I knelt. My hands loosened the straps of my sandals. The rough earth beneath my feet felt different somehow, not because the soil itself had changed, but because the presence of God had transformed that ordinary place. Then came words that overwhelmed every memory I possessed. "I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." My entire body trembled. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The names filled my mind with stories passed down through generations of my people. The God who had made promises to them was speaking to me. I could not bear to look. I covered my face because I was afraid to gaze upon God. The silence that followed seemed endless before the Lord continued speaking. "I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt." He had seen. For years I had wondered whether anyone noticed their suffering. God had. "I have heard their cry, every groan beneath slavery, every prayer whispered in the darkness. Every tear, none had escaped him. I know their sorrows." Those words settled deeply into my heart. The God of heaven was not distant. He knew. Then came a promise greater than anything I had imagined. "I am come down to deliver them." Deliver them. The words echoed inside me. For 40 years I had believed my opportunity to help Israel had ended in failure. God had not forgotten his people. But then everything changed again. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. The mountain seemed to fall silent. Surely I had misunderstood. Me? Return to Egypt? Stand before Pharaoh? The very thought made my stomach tighten. The last time I had left Egypt, I was running for my life. Now God was telling me to go back. I spoke honestly, because there was no hiding my fear. Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? 40 years earlier, I had thought I was somebody. Now I knew exactly how small I was. God did not answer by telling me I was capable. He answered with something far greater. Certainly I will be with thee. Those words carried more strength than any army. He did not promise an easy journey. He promised his presence. Still, questions filled my mind. The Israelites would ask who had sent me. What name could I give them? Then God revealed himself in words unlike any I had ever heard. I am that I am. The word seemed beyond time itself. He was not merely the God who had been. He was not simply the God who would be. He is, always, unchanging, self-existent, dependent upon no one. Then he instructed me to tell Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. As I listened, God unfolded his plan. The elders of Israel would hear. Pharaoh would resist. Mighty acts would follow. Egypt would witness God's power. His people would leave, not as defeated slaves, but carrying the wealth of those who had oppressed them. Everything God spoke seemed impossible, yet every word carried absolute certainty. I stood there with questions still lingering inside me, but something had changed. When I first walked toward that bush, I thought I was investigating an unusual fire. Now I understood. God had interrupted an ordinary day because he intended to interrupt my ordinary life. The shepherd's staff in my hand no longer felt like the tool of an insignificant man. The mountain no longer seemed like another lonely place in the wilderness. The years I had considered wasted suddenly appeared different. Every lonely mile, every scorching afternoon, every cold night beneath countless stars, every sheep I had patiently guided. God had been shaping me while I believed my greatest years were behind me. I slowly lifted my eyes. The fire still burned. The bush still stood. Nothing about that sight could be explained by human understanding. Yet the greatest miracle was not the bush. It was that the holy God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had called the name of a broken shepherd hiding in the wilderness. I had fled Egypt, believing my story had ended. Instead, I discovered it had only begun. The desert had taught me to listen. The years had humbled my pride. Failure had emptied me of confidence in myself. Now God was calling me to place my confidence in Him. As I stood barefoot upon holy ground, I knew I could never return to the ordinary life I had lived only moments before. The same wilderness stretched before me. The same mountains surrounded me. The same flock waited behind me. Yet everything had changed because I had encountered the living God. Some fires consume everything they touch. This fire revealed the one whose presence transforms ordinary places, ordinary days, and ordinary people into instruments of his eternal purpose. And I walked away from that mountain knowing that wherever he sent me next, I would never truly walk alone. If you have been blessed by this story, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and you will be notified when new stories are added. Also, do us a favor and let us know where you're listening from.